Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the Astrology Shitposting Incorporated live Q&A session. Excuse me, live Q&A session. Got to share this a couple places really quick, and then I will be right back. And I'll be here for your questions, and hopefully to give you a couple answers, See how it goes. So I'm going to send this in Messenger to a couple people. Send it right there. I am going to share this to a group. I'm going to go ahead and share it to the Astrology Shitposting Association. Seems like enough right now. It is nice to be live, This is the it goes guillotine version. I am drinking whiskey, so it is also the whiskey puppet bubble bath version. Hello, Naomi. I am drinking Jim Beam honey with some hot water and some lemon. I'm having a hot toddy tonight. It's pretty nice. Hot toddies. For a long time, up on the pages, I've been kind of quiet about, some of the internecine conflict that we've had between us and some of the other shitposting groups. But today, the silence was broken. And lots of posts were made. So here we are. We're in a brand new world. I think this is the third world. And not in the old-fashioned sense, but I think this is the third iteration. I feel like this is the very beginning of the third iteration of the Shitposting Chronicles. That's where I feel we are. And honestly, feels pretty good. I don't know if it's the reckoning, but it's something. It's really something. So, I'm open for questions. People can ask me any questions about astrology, tarot, or otherwise, or about the drama that's happening right now. Wasn't it broken last night? The only thing that was really broken last night was the hearts of our haters, like the hearts of our haters broke in unison when they realized that just shit was not gonna, it's gotta suck. If you really want to come to terms with somebody, if you really want to have that interaction with somebody, and they just won't have it with you. So we get to where we are right now. We have in the other group, we have an unblock me, you coward. Top line. Fun. Pretty fun. We're still here. And there's a lot of us that are still here. Kendra is still here. Alex is still here. Brandon is still here. Joe is still here. Denise is back. Shit. Astrology Shitposting Inc. Back in the day was only as good ultimately as the people that kind of shitposted in it, It wasn't just the name or the brand that was good. It was the people that kind of came forward to make it their own and make it something special, and it became something special. And along the way we picked up some hitchhikers, and some of those hitchhikers that kind of came along for clout or for getting recognition or for ego or whatever, ego mess as some people like to call it. Ultimately, a lot of people kind of backed away from that whole mess. So where are we at? What's the rule about the internet? Don't feed the trolls. So this is a question and answer session. So I hope people ask me more questions. I haven't fed the trolls for about 6 months. I've waited 6 months. A lot of people talking a lot of shit publicly about me. I've talked some shit privately, I'm not going to lie. But there's been a lot of people talking a lot of shit publicly about me. And some of it's earned, you know. I have made posts that would, you know, maybe they were in bad taste, you know. I've made some posts that perhaps were over the line. But one of the things that I didn't really do a lot was personal attacks against people. Sometimes in retaliation I'd do it, but very rarely would I do personal attacks against people. I would usually do big attacks over large swaths of people. Brandon, I have a little bit of whiskey for you. I don't know if I can get it to come through the screen to you, but I offer this to you out of solidarity. You've always stood strong and been the astrology Adonis that this whole world needs, and people like you, you know. Why don't I talk more shit about Chiron? You're not missing it right now, Liz. I don't know. I feel like Chiron is like baby Saturn, kind of. Chiron tends to be the thing that Saturn people are like, I just gotta stand up to the challenge of my Saturn and it will make me stronger. Or they just bitch about Saturn. I'm not sure which. But Chiron, people tend to think it's just this weakness that they can never overcome, when Chiron is just the wounded part of yourself that you just got to recognize as wounded and heal it, you know? And it's like when you figure out how to heal yourself, then you have the capacity to heal other people around you, you know? It's not that hard. People that are stuck on their Chiron being like this unfathomable adversary that can never be defeated. They're strong. It's not that hard. I would say that Saturn is actually a more difficult challenge than Chiron is, you know? But that's just me. You can go ahead and suffer under the slings and arrows of an outrageous Chiron if you want. That's fair, you know? That's your choice. It's not me, but it's your choice. I'm going to pour a little bit more whiskey in my cup. That looks good. So this is a live Q&A. I really like it when people ask me good questions, because it's a Q&A. We're moving closer and closer to that January meetup of Saturn and Pluto. And holy shit. Courtney, does Brandon have you blocked? No, I don't think so. Naomi, does Naomi have you blocked? That's crazy. If she does, because she's, no. Nope, Courtney, you're wrong. Naomi didn't block you. I do block people. So, if you want the real skinny on who I've blocked, I've blocked Brooke, Darrow Balmer. I've blocked Kate Parker. I've blocked Heather Bergeron. And I've blocked Michael, I forget his last name. Somebody else knows his last name. I just heard it too. I just can't remember it. It's from like Canada, like the boring parts of Canada. I forget which part. Like up in the north somewhere. It's like a white rapper or something. I don't know. That guy. And there's probably a couple others, but most of those others are just, yeah, Michael Oakley. That's the guy. So I'll tell you the reasons that I blocked each of them. I blocked Brooke because she was a complete and utter shithead to lots and lots of people around me. And me. Just constant shittery and just venom spewed all over the place. Much of it public, you know? It's just, come on. Come on. Why the fuck should I interact with your toxic ass at all? It doesn't make any sense. It by the end, I liked Brooke for a pretty long time, but by the end, it was such a negative energy exchange every time that I talked with her. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And then she kind of pulled Kate and Michael into her orbit, and they would come at me in my own group. And at some point, I was just like, fuck you, Kate. Fuck you, Oakley. Done. And who else? Oh, Heather. Heather, after I explained to her that some shit wasn't real, she shared it anyway with a bunch of people just to get back at me. So, I mean, fucking A. Those are people that I'm going to block. I don't want to deal with their shit at all. And if I have to deal with it through, like, screenshots from another group, that's okay. I don't really mind. But I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of any direct energy exchange. Because I don't want to fucking deal with it anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we're moving in to Saturn conjunct Pluto in January. And if people have more questions, they can definitely ask them at any point. We're moving into Saturn and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn. And realistically, we're seeing how rotten a lot of our political structures are. We're seeing how rotten a lot of our institutions are. And if we're honest with ourselves, we're seeing those things on kind of both sides of the political fence. We're seeing the places where it's rotten, where both sides agree, you know, because they both benefit from the rottenness. And that's going to come to sharper and sharper relief as we go towards January, which is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. The danger always with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is that the reactionary wave is destructive, right? The reactionary wave against corruption, against things not being right, is kind of a guillotine situation. And, you know, I don't think necessarily in the U.S. we're moving towards a guillotine situation, but there's a lot of shit popping off like all across the world that's really underreported right now because all we're focusing on is, you know, the impeachment of a president here. But in lots of countries around the world, in Jordan right now, in actually Amsterdam or in the Netherlands right now, in Pakistan, in parts of India, shit's popping off. Shit's just popping off. In Hong Kong, shit's popping off. Fuck, it's popping off. A lot of places. You would expect that reactionary wave against established structures to kind of hit some peaks by January, when we've got Saturn and Pluto kind of meeting up. Anybody can ask any questions at any point. I just figured Saturn, Pluto is the shit. This is why astrology is interesting, is you can see the big global cycles through it. It helps you to kind of see what's coming and not be so surprised by it, and also just ride the wave of historical cycles, because sometimes you just got to ride the wave of historical cycles. You can put your shoulder to the wheel as much as you want, but you're not going to necessarily change the historical cycle by yourself. If you're tired of corruption in your country, you have to do something about it. But to do something about it, you have to organize people around you, and you have to educate people around you, you know? It doesn't come out of nothing. It doesn't come just by posting your dissatisfaction on Facebook. It doesn't necessarily come from just getting out on the streets. It usually comes from changing the reality on the ground. And I kind of feel like that's where we're going towards right now. And it goes guillotine sometimes. I think nobody else is fucking asking any questions. Which opposition in the signs is like the easiest, do you think? As far as the opposition, yeah, it's definitely one of the mutable oppositions. Um, I would say I would say in the shitposting culture, I'm gonna talk to Brandon's question first, and then I'll talk to Naomi's question after that. Um, so in the shitposting culture, I feel like anybody that has risen to power, um, in a way that is kind of sideways or is not really anybody that's used kind of corrupt motives or malevolent motives to get where they are is likely to get hit by that Saturn Pluto conjunction. It definitely pulls the rug out from under people that don't have a strong foundation. That's like it dissolves the structure that holds them up in a high position, unless they built up that in an honest way, you know? So deception really works against you and kind of getting to the holding your spot at the top during a Saturn Pluto conjunction. That's the thing. And that happens all across the world, right? But that's also going to happen in the shitposting group. So we'll see how that goes. You know, maybe it'll hit me. Who knows? But I don't feel like that I've used deception. I feel like a few years ago, I learned that deception, even if you think it's a good thing at the time, never works out in your favor. But maybe. We'll see. Authentic love is probably pretty key. So, which opposition of the signs is the easiest? Is it Virgo, Pisces, or Gem, Sag? I think Virgo, Pisces. Because I think the feminine of the mutables is most likely to sacrifice itself for the other. Whereas the masculine of the mutables is more likely to fight about it. Yeah. That's my feeling. I'm not saying that the Virgo-Pisces relationship is better. In fact, it's probably because they don't communicate or deal with their problems very honestly. I feel like they suffer more than Gemini Sag, but they're more likely to kind of stick together and ride it out. So let's see, what else? Any other questions? So it's not out of my hands. What's not out of my hand? Neptune and Pisces is deception victim problem we have. Yeah, Neptune and Pisces has been a big problem for a long time. It's going to be a problem until 2023, I think. So, yeah, that's true. It's never easy. Virgo to Pisces is weird. It's like that sacrificial. Both of them have that sacrificial aspect. Courtney, I'm not so sure that nothing is out of your hands. I'm not like the person that believes. I'm not necessarily the person that believes that everything, all parts of reality are created by an individual. I think some parts of reality are created collectively, right? And we have to experience the collective creation of reality rather than just the individual creation of reality. But you know, I mean, I could be wrong, but that's been like the biggest difficulty. Neptune is going into Aries into another election year. I think Pluto moves in 2024 too, so fuck. Oh, people that thought that 2016 was going to be a rough year for elections, I think 2020 is actually going to be a little bit rougher. In the U.S. I think that Saturn-Pluto conjunction gonna be a little bit rougher. I don't know which way it's gonna go, but I think so. There's some things that are in my hands, right? What I can do at this point is I'll get into that, Jennifer, because Jennifer is asking, how's Trump looking with his 2020 conjunction, considering current events? Get into that in a second. But what I have control over at this point is, keeping people that I feel like I can trust around, helping people have an opportunity to hopefully spread kind of the meme of astrology to the masses, which was always pretty much the goal of Astrology Shitposting Inc. It was to be that kind of lowbrow introduction into astrology. And honestly, when people are talking about like how they got into the group and then they were like, this is too much bullshit and it's too surface, and then they went to something bigger and deeper, those are like the success stories of this entire experiment, right? The success stories of astrology shitposting is people that see this, this world that we've kind of created, and see it as something that they can get beyond, and they keep working. And I think that's good. I hope that this next iteration, the third time's the charm around the circle, and I hope this time what we can do is better explain kind of the roots of it, and get people to talk more about kind of the edges of it in the comments. And I think if there's enough people that are really there in the admin team, and we kind of make a conscious decision to push the discourse a little bit higher while still calling each other shitheads, then we can really move to something better. Sun and Sag, Moon and Gemini, and Rising Pisces. Yeah, I would say that Scorpio Mercury is hitting that Neptune in Pisces. I would say Sun and Sag, Moon and Gemini is just kind of bipolar in general. About that, Jalen. I mean, sorry to say it. So somebody said something earlier. Looking for the last question. So, yeah, it's still the retrograde. Jalen. So Jennifer asked, how is it looking for Trump in 2020? I think it's looking better for him than people think it's going to look. I think that, honestly, there's this nodal return thing that's happening with him. He's going through this Saturn opposition to his Saturn and his Venus right now. So now is kind of a shitty time for him. But by the time the election comes around, that opposition is pretty much stopped. And there's like this nodal return. Like the North Node is back to where the North Node is. North Node is right near his sun, too. And then the South Node is right back to where the South Node is in his chart. And it feels like faded a little bit. So I don't know if that's going to work out good for him or bad for him. We'll kind of see. It depends on who he's running against. Yeah. So how do I remove my Pluto conjunct ascendant? Charnay, you should definitely move to paper bag. No, you shouldn't move to paper bag masks. Why in the world would you ever want to hide your beauty? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Charnay has made so many awesome songs about the shitposting world. North Node is kind of, so the nodes, Trogdor is actually pretty good at nodes, but the North Node tends to be the swimming against the current for your life, so it tends to be the place of growth for you. South Node tends to be the place of like when you don't try very hard. It's kind of what you kind of fall back into. It's like the lax, easy energy to go to, and it doesn't really benefit you long term. So a lot of people are like, oh my god, there's so much drama here, blah blah blah, it's so bad, blah. Literally so many people have met each other through these groups. Even my enemies have met each other. It's fine. I don't really care if people like me or not in the groups, but so much good connections ultimately have happened on the internet, and people have learned a lot, especially about the basic archetypes. Anybody that wanted to learn about the basic archetypes of astrology has learned about them through these groups if they just barely even pay attention. And that's pretty cool. I'm actually pretty proud of what we've already built over the course of time. Although I am an old flesh beard at this point, you know. I can talk a little bit about Pluto in the first house, yeah. Pluto in the first house tends to make you come off as a heavy to people around you. So people like see a lot more in you than you necessarily want to show. Tend to be drawn towards you, tell you secrets, kind of overload you sometimes with what they have. Also, you tend to be like, if you're going for something, it tends to be pretty easy to see that you're going for it. Your secret game is not as good as you think it is because it's more open, right? Your first house, Pluto, means that like your secrets, the things that you think you're kind of keeping from the world, tends to be seen on your face. And you might not be super conscious about it, but it's definitely out there. Let's talk about no, I'm not going to talk about Ophiuchus. Doop, doop, doop. I think our community is pretty good. I think we're finally at this point where we're going to move forward. This whole conflict, it's not really WWF, but it's kind of WWF. It's kind of WWF. It's a little bit WWF, but there's been people that have actually been like really emotionally hurt through the whole thing. I honestly have not felt super good seeing some of the things that have been said about me, publicly especially, where people are just trying to drag my name as much as they can. And there's certainly things that I've done and said over the course of time that can be used against me. So you want fourth house in Saturn and Pisces opinion. So fourth house Saturn and Pisces, it's kind of a hard home life. Fourth house Saturn tends to be hard life coming up. Like there's struggles sometimes. Like money wasn't always there. There was love there, and there was sometimes like deception about when the next thing was when it was gonna be good next. You know, it's like fourth house Saturn. Saturn and Pisces. Sometimes you have parents that are telling you stories about how it's going to be in the future, even though you're going through the hard time now. So I would say fourth house Saturn and Pisces, you'll have kind of a weird opinion kind of about your family. There's aspects about your family that you really love, and there's aspects about your family that you understand that like some of the things that were told to you that are kind of your foundation stones, not necessarily totally true. There's stories, but usually if you look at what the intention of the stories were, it can be really helpful for your life, you know? And often people with Saturn and Pisces, or Saturn in the fourth house, will really work to build a strong foundation for their own family in the future, if things were not super good for them when they were kids. What's your sign? Says Jalen. I'm a Libra with Scorpio moon. Does a seventh house stellium sort of make up for a lack of any Libra placements? Well, there is no one-to-one comparison, Gwen, between Libra and the seventh house. The seventh house is about relationships. It's about open enemies. One of the things that I've noticed about my seventh house stellium is that the open enemies have gotten more numerous as I've gotten older. So recognize it's about your relationships, it's about your close relationships, but it's also about the people that fucking hate your guts, and there's going to be some of those. And that's not really a Libra thing, it's a seventh house thing. So it's different. Andy, I hear you, but, you know, I'm not there anymore. So. Desperate for Venusian influence. And there's an OGs. Well, Jalen, you know, if you're detached, you just got to be detached. You might fall in love with somebody's mind first. That's fine. It's hard to tell you, Nate. Better understanding of Venus and Aquarius. So if you have Venus in Aquarius, you're going to fall in love with the idea of a person in general rather than the real person. And the goal for you is to focus on the realness of that person and try to not be focused on the ideal of what you think that person is, but meet them as what they are. So it's very easy to put people on a pedestal. It's very easy to put people up as this ideal that's very difficult to reach, and then when they don't reach that ideal, it's easy to be disappointed and disenchanted, and you don't want that. Boop 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 boop. Saturn return with Aqua in the 12th house. A complete revision of your ideals, what you think is important, what your beliefs are, your deep rooted beliefs. Complete transition on that level. I would honestly expect a more foundational focus. With your Saturn return, you're going to be more focused on, like, how do you use your talents to bring money in? How do you solidify it while keeping with your spiritual path? That's what I kind of expect from it. And it's not going to be necessarily you're not going to know how it's going until it kind of goes into the first house. People around you will see it. So you got to kind of get feedback from people around you if you're on the right track. But likely you'll really see it when Saturn moves into your first house. I have a lot of water in my chart. How would you recommend us to manage the feelings? Don't take on anybody else's feelings. Just deal with your own. Deal with them as they come up. Live your feelings. You're not trying to pretend they don't exist, but you're not trying to let them take over your life either, right? So the problem with a lot of water signs is they'll take on other people's emotions as their own. That's when you really get into trouble. So if you're already having trouble with your own shit, don't take on anybody else's. It's a very simple answer. I'm pretty much done. It's been a long live. I've got my kids downstairs. I'm gonna get back to them. It was a pleasure talking to everybody. Have a